Hello, everyone. Welcome to the next book club episode of the More Magic podcast. Today, Marianne and I are talking about our December book, which is The Everlasting by Alix Harrow. So I was excited to read this one because Alix Harrow is one of my favorite authors. I think she's one of your favorite authors too. Is that right?
I've read one book from her, which is on my top 10, which is The 10,000 Doors of January, and I think she's done it again. Great
I
book.
thought so too. Yeah, I Thousand Doors of January, that's the book that I recommend all the time for anyone.
Same.
It's so good. And Starling House is one of my favorites. And then reading this one, yeah, I'm so excited to talk to you about this because when I was reading it, I knew it was a time loop. And I read the seven or six deaths of the saint, whatever the short story was that kind of inspired this. So I knew going in how it was going to feel, or at least the inspiration for it. But then reading this, for like the first half, I was like, oh no. I don't know. It's like it was repetitive, because it has to be to show the
Yes.
story. And I was like, oh no, what? I don't know if I'm gonna like this. Like it feels repetitive. And then the way it all came together just was perfect. I thought it was the perfect ending. What did you think?
Yeah, same. So when the time loop started again, I was like, oh no. Like this is Groundhog Day, but for a reader. But then, yeah, I kind of dreaded it, and then I really liked it. It flowed really well. It wasn't like as boring as I thought. I have to say, as a sci-fi girly, time travel is a topic that I have a lot of opinions about, and it is really hard to do well. I
Mm,
will be honest, I don't know if the time travel logic makes sense, but if you can just suspend belief of like, oh, is it a closed time loop system? Is it a single timeline or is it a multiverse? If you just don't think about it from a sci-fi perspective and you just take the
hmm
story as it is, I think it's a great story and I think it's I would almost say it's like Groundhog Day, but imagine if everyone but Bill Murray started to over time realize that things are being repeated. Right?
hmm
Would you say that, Demi?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's like I thought it was interesting because like the first I guess time loop or time setting. I don't know what we would call it, but the first time through, I
I
was
like
like, because
that.
he was talking about how he, Owen, the main character, how he was already kind of in love with her, and I thought, it was the idea of her and her as the knight and the heroine of the country and all of this. But then later, there was a moment, I don't remember at what point, but maybe around halfway through, where he was like, wait, how many times have we done this? And so then it made me appreciate the beginning even more because it was like, oh, yeah, how many versions were we in? Was this the first one or was this, like their 100th time meeting each other? So now, of course, they have this connection already. I thought that was really well done, where it made me second guess everything that I had thought in the beginning and kind of rework through those feelings.
Yeah, it almost like forces you to let go of linear storytelling and our linear 3D, the
Yeah.
way we, again, not to be too sci-fi ish, since this is a fantasy podcast, but we experience time in the third dimension, which is very linear, slice by slice. And it's almost like you have to let go of that and just kind of accept an infinite timeline where who knows how many times this story has been told. But it's like it might as well have been infinite, and things start to get muddled together, and because the body remembers, is what they kept
hmm
saying, which I think is really interesting. Reminds me of Bessel van der Kolk's "The Body Keeps the Score," which is
Yeah.
this brave. Have you heard of that book?
I've heard of it. I haven't read it yet.
Yeah, really good book, heavy read, not a fantasy novel. It is a psychology book by a psychologist about how the body remembers trauma, even if you don't, and how that affects our society and even like our history and the way we tell stories and the way we remember things. But it kind of reminded me of that. So I think this book was really deep, and I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, well, we've already kind of started talking about the world. Maybe we start with the world and magic system first. So, would you call it a time loop or time travel, or it's hard to like define exactly what the magic was in this book.
Yeah.
It was really the
Okay.
time.
I would define it as natural magic. Because there's
Okay.
no like witches or sorcerers. The magic comes from the dragon hearts, from the actual hearts of
hmm
the dragon, from an ancient tree. And if this tree has been around for eons and has seen everything. And so if you put together a dragon heart and you bury it at the root of that tree, like you have this magic that comes out of it. And so these very average, normal humans who don't actually have any magic, they're just kind of manipulating like the natural world to their own benefit. So, right, is that's
Mm.
kind of how I saw it. What do you think, Demi?
Yeah, that's true because like they don't actually have magical powers. Although I guess Una and Owen kind of do at the end because they exist because of the tree and because of the dragon heart being buried within them. So how do they call it? Like they're people outside of time.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, which is interesting because then they become a part of that like natural magic.
Yeah.
I
Like they
think this
become
book
part of the
was
nature. Hmm.
I feel like that was a theme in this because the way that the modern times were presented were less desirable. And they even said that when the 9 years that they were together, he said Una she didn't like how crowded it was and I think the sounds or something. So they stuck to older times in the 1,000 year period or whatever it was, which I feel like, yeah, it just felt very respectful to nature. Like once you finish the book, at least that's how it was for me. I don't know if you had that same feeling.
Yeah. No, definitely. And one of the most heartbreaking things to me was in the middle of the book when you realize that dragons are not a threat at all and they're actually more like whales.
Yeah.
That, like, just so
Yeah.
you know, whales are some of my favorite animals because they're just so kind and so good and so gentle and better than us in every way. And so just to say, like, wow, they're committing, I don't know if genocide is the right term, or what's that called when you're like you want to make something go
Like
extinct? Yes, thank you. Like
extermination.
they're
Yeah.
she's Vivian, who I'm excited to talk about, is exterminating all the dragons just for power's sake and spinning this tale that they're evil, but really it's just to protect her own interests. Heartbreaking. So heartbreaking.
I agree. I was devastated. The scene in the beginning where she kills the dragon and all you see is the description of the sound of like their scream or their
Yeah.
cry, whatever it was. I
Yeah.
was just like, oh, it gives me chills just thinking about it. Just try it, like envisioning being in my mind, it's like Scotland, like in the mountains of Scotland, and then you just hear this like beautiful, heartbreaking death of like the final dragon. I literally added a note in Storygraph. I was like, I don't know where this is going, but I really hope that they use the time loop to not kill all of the dragons. That was my main thing. The whole time I was like, please save the dragons. I wanted more dragons. And then there was at the end. I was very happy that they came back and were
Yay.
kind of that whole piece, you know?
Not that it's the same. Kind of reminds me again another animal that I deeply love and I think they're amazing are elephants. And it kind of reminds me
Yeah.
of how we almost exterminated elephants for their ivory tusks. Again, also for power. So yeah, I think I saw a lot of connection between like nature and
Hmm.
preserving nature versus one's evil ambitions and willing to corrupt nature for their own sake.
I don't think it explicitly said this, but with her killing all of the dragons, it seemed like that was because she didn't want anyone else to be able to do the time travel, right?
Yep. Yeah, it was to
Yeah.
preserve her secret that she stumbled on.
Yeah. Which is what you just said about power, like kind of destroying nature to be able to have all of the power and control everything. It was just, I thought this book played with a lot of different themes, which I know we'll talk about later. But yeah, I really liked that. I also liked for the time loop part. It was hard. I think you were right when you said it earlier. I feel like I couldn't make my brain be like, okay, well, if they're back here, then this changes everything here, and like kind of try to like logic through all of that because it was just too complicated. And
Yeah.
so then I had to just be like, okay, I'll believe you. This is what's happening.
Yeah.
Because
This was
yeah.
not like sci-fi time travel that has like again like we talked about this in one of our like other episodes like sci-fi fantasy where like it's science fiction and fantasy is a spectrum. This I wouldn't say that this is in the middle of the spectrum that uses hard magic and like hard rules and like the physical laws of nature. It's not like that. It is pure time travel in a complete fantasy setting. And so that means letting go of like trying to understand how everything works, right?
Yeah, which I personally like. I really liked that. Also loved that the tree was the magic, and I didn't realize it until late in the book. Like I think the same time that they did. I didn't have any suspicion about it.
I don't think I ever made the connection. I thought of the tree as having very spiritual significance. As someone who
Hmm.
loves trees, and I do think that trees are magic in real life. Like, I think trees are very cool. So I loved how they always meet me at the yew tree. I just thought that was really beautiful imagery and symbolism. Had no idea that that's like the root of how Vivian has been getting around for eons.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm curious your thought on this. So if they go back and they have the book and they go to the yew tree, I was like, why couldn't they just travel with the tree? Because they did in like a different version when they burned the book, they used the tree to travel. The one where they're back, he throws it in the fireplace, and then she shoots Una, and their kids are there. They travel with the tree itself. So yeah, I was like, oh, they could have done that this whole time, but maybe they just
Huh.
didn't realize it. Yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
if you had any thoughts on that.
I mean, they did at the end, right? Because, like, in the end, it's hinted that they're time travelers. Like, they kind of live through all the times, right?
Yeah,
Like,
that's true. Yeah.
so they figured it out eventually. But you're right. I didn't put, yeah, I'd never even caught that.
Well, yeah, I think it was just like my interpretation was that they didn't know because they're trying to. That was very clever, I think, for the story building and the world building that they forget when they go back to their timeline. So they're having to piece it together. So the entire book, and it's from both, two different perspectives, and they're both kind of unreliable because they don't have their memories. So
Their
it's like,
brains are
well,
mush.
yeah,
Like,
so
it's like everything's put together.
yeah, so you're reading it and you're like, well, is that how? Because they would remember some things, and then you, as the reader, would be like, no, no, that didn't happen. Like last time that was different, or like you're remembering it wrong. And so then the whole time I was like, okay, well, what is actually happening? Like, what do they know, and how much they remember? So I think that that was an interesting part of this book too, where you're just in this place where you know something's happening but you don't know and they don't know, so it's like just it was very like I wouldn't classify it as a mystery, but there was that overarching mystery that you're trying to figure out, because they keep losing their memories. So
Yeah, like your own memory isn't reliable or
yeah.
trustworthy. Speaking of like the characters, should we talk about Una, Owen, and Vivian, the three main characters of the book?
Yeah, yeah, let's do it.
I just want to say this is gonna sound so weird, but I love how they were ugly. Like total set aside, I just liked that Una was an ugly person when he described her because she's
Mm.
so battle hardened and so is he, and so like they're both scarred physically and internally, and I thought that was really refreshing for them to find each other beautiful. Even though, like, I remember there
Yeah,
was a
yeah,
voice, like, there's a line where she says his voice was unlovely, but I loved it. She knows that because his, like, vocal cords are damaged, but she loved his voice anyways. And I just think that's very true to life. Rather
yeah.
than, like, what we usually see, which are people who are super hot and they're like, I'm ugly because I have one striking blue eye and one striking green eye. I'm so hideous. Don't look at me. Like, like, and like where it's like, oh, okay, no, she's actually beautiful and she has like this cool quirk. I just want to say good job, Alix Harrow, making some like people who are like showing their internal scars externally and they found each other beautiful. And I think that's just real life.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good way to show love and how the kind of like the theme of it's like what's on the inside, like that's who you love. You don't fall in love with someone just based on how they look. You fall in love with them based on who they are. And the line that you mentioned where she's like, I loved his voice, that to me was like that's love too. If you love a person, even if their vocal cords are like cut, you still would love to hear them speak because you want to hear, like you want to know what
Exactly.
they're thinking. And yeah, I loved that.
Yeah, it's just true. Okay, like my mom, when she was a baby, she had Bell's palsy, which is paralysis of one side of the face, and it never
Hmm.
got better. Her whole life had an uneven face, right? One side of her face didn't work compared to the other side, and it was really obvious. And my dad loved her like that. Like he loved her and he married her. And so I grew up with a mom who, people like little kids at school, when she would come to pick me up, would be like, "What's wrong with you?" And my mom would be like, "None of your business." But like, but but it's just like, so to me, it was really nice seeing a love story that I know for a fact happens. Like seeing it on page. I don't think I've ever seen this before. Like I said, it's usually people who have a quirk about them that makes them look different, but it's really not that big a deal. Like I feel like this was, yeah, I just liked it. Thanks, Alex,
Hmm.
for doing that.
The only one that I can think of is like the Hunchback of Notre Dame, because he was like portrayed as it's
Like
been so long
hideous on
since
the
I read
outside.
that. Yeah.
I just watched the movie
Oh, just on the
recently. It's
movie.
very good. It holds up. I can't believe that was a kid's movie. Like on it's
Really?
like so not a kid's movie. It's so intense, but it's a very good.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Ooh, interesting. Okay, maybe I'll watch that again. Yeah, so what did you think about Vivian? I really want to
Okay.
talk about her. Yeah.
Okay. So Vivian, first of all, I love the whole like you know that whole analogy like, oh, if you could go back in time and kill baby Hitler, would you kill baby Hitler? Like, that's what Alex did. Like the answer
She's
was
like,
yes.
yes, yeah.
she she posited the dilemma and she's like, nope, we kill Hitler. Like no question. So I thought that was really funny. I think it's so interesting. Like I actually again thought this was really refreshing. I feel like there's been a trend, and I don't mind this trend, of like explaining the villains and why they do what they do. Like one of my favorite Disney movies is Maleficent, which
Hmm.
tells the story from the perspective of Maleficent, and you see from her perspective, she really was a victim through and through, and she's actually the heroine, and the dad is evil. And I think that's fine. It has its place. But then we went through a period where every single villain is actually the hero or heroine to the point that we
Yeah.
made a Cruella de Vil where she's actually the good one. Like, and I don't think that that is real. People are victims, yes. That does not excuse you becoming a victimizer. Like, you can
Yeah.
understand why people do something, but that doesn't erase accountability. And I think Vivian is the perfect example of that. She is someone who was treated beyond horribly, like beyond evilly. That does not justify her becoming a crazy power wielding fascist who has put millions upon millions of people throughout all time and space under subjugation. It just doesn't. It doesn't make her a hero like she sees herself as
She's like enabling it or like continuing it almost.
a perpetuator of the trauma.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. So I thought it was really
Yeah.
good the way they did that. I liked how she did that. Like she wasn't all she was to me all evil, but there was an explanation of why, and it showed that even though she had this evil thing, and in fact, like when they were in their killing Hitler scenario, like there was a moment where like Una like second guesses herself when she realizes what her mother Vivian has gone through, but then she's like, nope, and then kills her. And I just thought that was
Yeah, I
cool.
thought that was a really good moment because it was I think she asked her, would you if I set you free or something. I don't remember the exact question, but it was something and she said she essentially like Vivian essentially said I would continue doing this stuff, you know. And then that's when she's like, okay, you know, well, I can't let you keep going, you know. So and I did so I really liked the twist that she was her mom and because especially being a new parent, like the part where they had their kids and they, you know, they'd been running for years and then they're like, well, what if we stay? What if we do this? And they have this life. And it's like, you know, Owen is becoming this dad and he's learning how to be confident and be there for them, you know? And then Una's learning how to be soft and it was like such a cool growth moment for them. And then for Vivian to come and say that she was her mom, it was a complete juxtaposition between the way that they were parenting and being there for their kids, and then her using her daughter as a weapon for power and having her die over and over and over again. I thought it was a really interesting just way to represent parenthood. And I really like that. And also thinking about how you feel about your parents because there was a part where Owen was like, well, she may have given birth to you, but you know, she's not your mother, you know. You don't have to forgive her for letting you die maybe thousands of times and not even letting her like orchestrating it for her to die,
Hmm.
which is so it was I just could not I had to like sit with it a moment because I could not even wrap my mind around being that heartless. I know that like her rationale was like, well, you were dead anyway. I gave you life by bearing you with the dragon heart. But that doesn't mean that you own a person and just because you give them life. And yeah, I really liked that. I was not expecting that from the book, but I really liked that relationship there.
Yeah. Again, I think this, unfortunately to say, I think that's also kind of true to life. Like subconsciously, I think a lot of parents believe that they own their children. They
Mm,
might not say it, but there's a subconscious belief that underpins and therefore it justifies the way they might treat their kids. Like they say, if you hit your kids, it's because you have a sense of ownership over them. And I wish, every person who had a child was a good person who was selfless and loved them and did what was best for them, but that's not always the case, right? Sometimes they use them for their own gain. Think of all the momagers that whose kids become really famous and then like write memoirs about their horrible moms after, like Jeanette McCurdy, I think her name is, who wrote "I'm Glad My Mom Died." Did
mm.
you hear about that book?
I've seen it. I haven't read it yet. Yeah, I don't know
Me
much
neither.
about
It
it.
looks way too sad. No, but I watched the YouTube interview of her talking about that book to Drew Barrymore, who also had a momager. And so, like, unfortunately, it's just real
Oh,
life. Like,
interesting.
there's a person who, like, there's a type of person who uses people for their own gain, and it's just sad. But it's really empowering when someone who has been used refuses to do the same. Like, they stop the cycle. Whereas Vivian kind of repeated the cycle from her master,
Hmm.
she slash abuser. She stopped it. She didn't do to her what was done to her. And to me, that's like the greatest human triumph is when you don't repeat what has been done to you.
Hmm. I think that this did a really good job of showing that because um, it wasn't even just about the characters, like it also applied to thinking about war and like invasion and yeah, just any sort of battle and these systems of power and how I think that was something that Owen grappled with a lot, and then definitely Una. Like, you're on the front lines, you're defending the country, and then it's like, well, look what the country's doing to these other people. Yeah, I just think that there was like so much at play.
Yeah. There's so much at play. Something too that with Owen, going on to Owen, um, I noticed she did this too with Alix Harrow did this with 10,000 Doors of January. So now that's two characters that she's done. And I notice it, which is they're in between people. Like they're people who don't quite
Mm,
fit in either world, but they try
hmm.
so hard to fit. Like all they want is to fit into the world, and it shapes the way they interact with the world. Owen was like that too, right? Because he's actually a hinterlander through and through, but he was born and raised in Dominion. And so people are so biased towards him, but he literally has bled for this country. He has fought with his own father for this country. He has, killed for this country. And it's still not enough. He'll never be a Dominionite as long as he lives.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's such a good point. I thought it was interesting how when he learned that how his mom died, he said he had never considered who his father was, which makes sense because you're raised by this person and I mean you wouldn't think to be like, are you my dad? You know.
Yeah.
Um, but also he never asked, which is surprising to me, like, the background. Um, but that definitely connected because as you said, he was fighting for the country and he was in the war and he was doing all this stuff and then he learns that actually the only reason he was there is because the war came and killed his entire family. Maybe even more than his family. Was it like the whole like
His whole
roving
like
group? Yeah.
unit, like his whole village, his whole community was like exterminated.
Yeah. So I thought that was really interesting because I think it was halfway through the book and I feel like it did a really good job of making you think like, well, who's the good guys and who's the bad guys? And is there even a good guy and a bad guy in war? You know? I think it's just violence and that was my conclusion from this because at the end it was something like the deserters and other people were the ones who came and like lived around them in their forest
Yeah.
and they were kind of accepting all of the people who were my interpretation was all the people who were like, I don't want to be a part of war. I don't want to
Like, I reject
hurt
this
people
lifestyle,
and
this way of life. I reject the stories you tell me about why I
yeah.
should do what I do.
Yeah, which I really liked. I think that it's a conversation that I feel like isn't had very often, especially in fiction, especially in fantasy where there's a lot of it's normally very clear who the bad guys are. And so this did a good way of kind of playing with that and making you, I mean, Vivian obviously is the bad guy, but when you look at the country itself, who's good and who's bad. And even after they destroy her in the time loop, like it still says, there's still battles, there's still conflicts. So it still happens. And so I thought that was a really interesting because the idealist in me wanted there to be a utopia conclusion where it's like, and then there was no more fighting and that was it. And they all lived happily ever after and they were in love. And then, but it was like, no, like, this is still going to happen and it still did happen. And there's kind of no goodbye. Like this is just a negative part of life almost. Like I'm still kind of thinking about because I just finished the book. But I really liked how it brought up that discussion, which I just haven't really seen before in a fantasy book. I don't know
Yeah.
if you've seen one.
No, but if there's it's really weird. What's coming up to my mind right now is Mean Girls and Gossip Girl. Um, like that's what I'm thinking of, which
Just
is
teenage
like,
girls.
yeah, like because at the end of each, like at the end of Mean Girls, they've all learned their lessons, right? Do you think it's gonna be a girl utopia where they're all friends with each other? No, there's a new generation of girls, and there's a new Mean Girl who's ready to like torture everyone else. And then same with Gossip Girl. They're all happy, they're all happily married with kids. Do you think like the high school world will be nice and everybody will be happy with each other? No, there's a new Gossip Girl ready to gossip about everyone. And so it's like
Yeah.
if there's humans involved, like it can't be a utopia. We are
Mm.
doomed to learn the same lesson over and over and over again until like from the dawn of time to the end of time. Like that's just how I think it is. We're in our own time loop.
I'm still going to be hopeful and say no. We will learn our lesson and there will be no violence and and I disagree. But
I
when will we? But
I mean, you know what? I hope I'm wrong. I hope you're right. Like, amen. Amen. I mean, that's hope, right? Is hope. Like, I shouldn't be so defeatist. So, like, it's good to have
yeah.
hope.
You need to go read Lord of the Rings. That's what you need
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
do.
That's right. They had it nice after. They were in a utopia after, right? As far as we know.
Yeah, I think as far as we know, I don't know I haven't read any of the books outside of the series, so I don't know if there are any after, but any of the world outside of that. We don't have to
Yeah.
digress into the world of Tolkien right now, but um yeah, so should we talk about some of the other characters? I want to just give a shout out to Hen because I thought that was so fun that the description in the beginning where it was basically like just a breathing skeleton, I loved that it was like this war horse that was just like ragged and just like, but still very violent, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. At
yeah.
first, when Vivian, like the very first time, like Vivian shows her hand and she's like, ugh, I hate that damned horse.
Oh,
And then like
yeah.
late, I'm like, why would you hate a horse? Like, what did he do to you? And then she like, it's a throwaway comment. She's like, if you're gonna send a horse back through time again and again and again, they're gonna go crazy. And I'm like, oh, that's why. Like, cause he remembers too. So he's like
Oh, yeah.
wild. Like he's been through infinite war. That's why he's insane. And I'm like, you know what? I love that. Hen seems like a great horse.
Oh my gosh, you just pieced together a part for me because Una says in one part that he would give his cry to alert her when there was like some unseen threat. And I mean, he does that, like I was saying that he did it in battle, but then he does it when, she's about to be killed again and again. But yeah, it's because he's seen it before and he remembers. You're right. I just
Yeah.
now realized that.
Maybe he's the most sane. Like he's the one that remembers it. Like he actually pieced together everything before everyone else, and the poor horse is cursed with the inability to communicate.
Yeah, and he's just like, you guys, can't we be done with this and just eat oats or, whatever
Yeah.
horses do.
Yeah. Yeah. I want
Yeah,
to
I liked
say,
him.
yeah, me too. I really loved Owen's dad. He was
I did
my favorite
too.
character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
He's
thought he
also
was
tragic.
so interesting. Yeah. What did you like about him? Do you want to talk about him?
Okay, so the reason why I liked him is he is a man who rejected the story that was being spoon-fed to him, and
Mm.
that ostracized him from the rest of his community, and he didn't care. And I just respect the hell out of that. Like someone who knows wrong when he sees it, even if everyone around him sees it as being right, and he doesn't back down. I think that's awesome. The tragic part of it is that he was affected by it because he became a raging alcoholic, right? and like couldn't really communicate with his son. And so there's like a tragic reality. And again, I just think this is true to life. Like there's so many historical figures who fought the system, right? Like they fought and fought and fought like evils and injustice, but they were also very physically affected by what they had to experience.
It is true to life, and that's a pretty, I don't want to say common, but it does happen a lot where someone goes to war and you have to process the trauma, and a lot of people turn to alcohol, or you hear stories where that happens, and that's like the way that you can escape, especially in, past generations where there wasn't therapy really and things like that, and it's so intense. But I thought that his dad was really, I ended up really liking him too. I think because he to me was the one who really showed what love was from the very beginning. Because even
Yeah.
though he had the conflict with his son, and his son was doing the opposite, he was literally in the like military for the
His
the
son was a
system that,
fascist.
yeah, so
Like,
he was supporting it. He was like the Nazis, like he
yeah.
was doing it. And but he still loved him, and he still goes like when Owen shows up at the Capitol or whatever they called it. In my mind it was the Capitol.
Yeah,
Um
same.
and, so he goes, and his dad still talks to him and is still there, and then he like helps him later, and I love that. And there was a part where he said, when he was talking about after he got Owen, saying that he didn't put him down. He picked him up after he saw that, the mom was dead, and there was this like toddler or baby, I don't know how old he was. And he didn't put him down for the entire march back or something for like
Yeah.
a year or something, and then shot himself so
Yeah.
he could be
Yeah.
with him. That to me was, having him as the main parent of our main characters contrasted with Vivian, who would never do any sort of self-sacrifice. Like she didn't sacrifice anything at all for Una. She saw someone who was weaker than her, who was helpless, who she could use for her own personal gain. Whereas Owen's dad was the opposite, and he saw all of these everyone was helpless, but he saw this helpless child and was like, I have to do anything I can to protect him, to atone for what I've done. But also he did love him.
Yeah.
And I really liked, yeah, just like I said, the contrast between those two. I thought it
Yeah.
was really well
He's a
done.
goat. He's a Demi, I want to talk about Una real quick because I just think it was really interesting how Una saw herself, which is like not a person. Like she kind of like did not see herself as a human being. She saw herself as a thing to be used.
Hmm.
And I think that was really interesting. Like in every facet of her life, she saw herself as something to be used. And I think we could like talk about the sex real quick. If you like, obviously this book is not child friendly. Like it's not a book to listen to as you drop your kids off to school because there is some rated R content in there. But I thought it was interesting how like Owen shocked her because he wasn't a taker. And I
Mm.
like it
Oh
was like
yeah.
it totally twisted her worldview, like it totally changed her worldview that maybe she was a person. But then also, I like the conclusion she comes to, which is like if you love, you belong to something, right? Difference between being taken from and giving. And so she became a giver, like she became a giver to Owen, to her kids. It was her own choice rather than her resignation of being used as a warrior, as like, a sex object, as a tool for world domination. Like, and so I thought that was a really cool like character development for her. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so too. Because well, we learn later that in the very beginning where they first meet, she's there because she was going to kill herself, and she didn't want to do it anymore. She was done, and then you see her fighting to live. Like she starts to fight to live, and she learns, like you said, she learns that she is a person, and she gets to have things that she wants. Like I think the moment when she decides to have kids, like, because I think that she was pregnant two times before, or once, or maybe it was the second one. I don't remember exactly. But then they're like, well, what if we do it? And I feel like that was the moment where she really started to, I mean, they were already on the run, but that was like the moment where it was like, okay, I can have a home, which she hadn't really had for a million lives, but since she was like very little with her dad's, and because we never hear exactly how old she was when she went and became a knight, but it seemed like it was pretty young, I think.
I feel like teens.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like her whole life, like she never was able to have what she wanted. She could never make a decision for herself. And I thought it was interesting too, because she was able to be the parent that she wanted to be. Like she didn't have to be the nurturing mom the first time, like up in the middle of the night. Like she was able to kind of use her existing skills and then eventually grew into that. And we got to see her really evolve and become, like I said, become a softer person. But also, like you said, like learning that she didn't have to like he Owen knighted her to and made her promise. Was it exactly? It was like
To like, I think he made a promise to live for no one but herself, and she was like, "I can't do that because I love you." And like, I like that. Like, it's true. Like, you can't live for yourself when you love someone. Like, you can't. It's just, but it's your choice, and that's the big difference is that she was
yeah.
choosing to.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I think she started to have choices and maybe realized that she had choices, which she always had, but she didn't,
She's a
wasn't
victim.
aware. Yeah.
Like her, even like Owen said it when he first saw Vivian, or when he first started to kind of learn about like when he first met her as the queen, like
Hmm.
like the relationship they have is one of a lifetime of abuse, like of using her, and so she like it's the what's it called, learned helplessness. Like that's what Una
Yes.
had,
Yeah.
was learned helplessness from this woman who apparently since the dawn of the moment she was born she has been used by this woman and abused and manipulated by this woman.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting also to have that learned helplessness in a knight, which is kind of you would think the opposite. I mean, even in the beginning, we hear her as like, this mythical being who's able to do all this stuff. And then you like meet her and you're like, you're so strong and you're so powerful. Why are you doing this? Like why you can figure this out, you have all of the power. This is where all of Vivian's power is coming from. Not all of it, but um yeah, and so I really like that at the end she's the one to stop it. And Owen making the decision to sacrifice himself when his thing that he kept calling himself a coward and saying that he ran away and then he leans into the knife. And I think it was perfect for
Yeah.
like him making that decision to sacrifice himself for Una where no one had done that for her.
Yeah. I feel like he kept calling himself a coward. And I'm like, this dude is not a coward. If anything, he's just manipulated to believe in dominion like everybody else.
Yeah.
But I never saw like the cowardly, and he called his dad a coward, and I don't think his dad is a coward either. Like his dad broke into the Capitol and spray painted graffiti all over. Like that's not a cowardly thing to do. I think it's like it was part of the propaganda, which is if you don't fully
Yeah.
support Dominion with your heart, your soul, your life, you are a coward. And I think that's like the
Hmm.
worst thing to be. But nah, they're both pretty brave.
Yeah, I
They
think
just
there was like a line where Una said she was like thinking like he something God, I wish
like whoever
I wish
called
I
you a
could.
coward is a liar or something like that.
Yeah, she said that, but she was thinking about she was trying to place him. She's like, he's not a coward because a coward you can predict they're always gonna take care of themselves. But he's like something else where you don't know what he's gonna do because she was like being like, I don't know how to handle this guy because he's not gonna just run away, but he like I don't even know who he is. And
Yeah, he's a
yeah.
discerning man. He looks for the best outcome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I really liked him. Do you want to talk about the themes?
Let's do it.
Okay. Um yeah, I wrote war, is it ever good? And I feel like we
No.
could because as I already said, that was a really big theme for me, which is again so different from so many fantasy books where because there's war in not every fantasy novel, but a lot of fantasy novels. And I can't even think of one off the top of my head that addresses it this way, where you're like, oh yeah, like there shouldn't be the battle anyway. Like, couldn't you just like no one's benefiting? Um, and well, I guess the people in power are benefiting, but anyway, you know what I'm saying? That this one
Yeah.
like really kind of made you think like who's good, who's bad. Like it's almost honorable to just refuse to go to war was kind of the theme in this book.
I think that showed, and I agree. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, which is the opposite for a lot of fantasy, where it's about, the traditional knight kind of thing. It's like, oh, you got to be the last one to go into like to give up. You want to go into battle and be the first to volunteer, and kind of like Katniss in the Hunger Games. Like you have to be the one to volunteer to go. Um, and yeah, I just really liked how it showed that, and also there was a bit of, I guess it's not colonialism. What would you call it?
Imperialism,
Yeah,
like it
like
reminded me of
invading.
like fascism and imperialism. It was like a fascist government that's
Mm.
very heavy on the propaganda, right? You're not allowed to have illicit content. You're not allowed to like, speak if you speak, there's like secret police who watch, right, and spy on people who, and if you like everyone kind of self-censors. These are all hallmarks of a fascist government. But then there's also the imperialist side where they're like, it is good and righteous to conquer. And like we are doing the world a favor. And the
Hmm.
people, and we are like they even use the specific word in the beginning, which is we are liberating the hinterlands from like their
Oh, yeah.
oppressive rule. That's always a red flag that like whenever they're like we're going to liberate these people from themselves, red flag that there's some propaganda going on and people still eat it up. But yeah, so like that, like yeah, so that I feel like it was like a little bit, you take a little bit of 1800s and a little bit of 1940s, you put it together and you get Dominion.
Yeah, but it was like modern times kind of.
Yeah,
Yeah, I thought that it was really cool how she used the myth of a knight to, and it did have a bit of King Arthur, because she pulled
totally.
the sword from the tree, and it was like, the name of the sword, and I was like, is this an Excalibur thing? And then it's different, a different world. But having like how the myths shape our reality, and essentially Vivian was just, instead of just creating propaganda, she was making history propaganda and just changing it to suit whatever she wanted for her power throughout. And I mean, she ruled for, multiple times. So I thought that was a really interesting way to kind of tie back to that theme of war, and also like sacrifice and love, and finding your voice and your choice, because they all kind of had to, I would say Una and Owen especially, they had to both learn that they had choices. And yeah, using like the myth, which is also propaganda, to show that, I just thought it was really interesting, and I thought it was a very creative way to kind of come at this story, because when I heard that it was a night book, I was expecting something completely different, more of like a quest type of thing. And this one
This was
really
not
was
a
heavy on
quest.
the themes. Yeah.
Yeah, like I feel like it started out with the quest, like, oh, get the Grail, and you find out that it actually quests have nothing to do with it. The quests are a farce orchestrated by this crazy person.
Yeah.
Like maniacal person.
Well, the quests are the propaganda, which is what I
Yeah,
thought. Like the fact that she didn't need the what was
the
it? The
Grail.
the Grail. Yeah, she didn't need
Yeah.
the Grail. And then that she was planting the swords. The sword
Yeah,
wasn't even magical. So
yeah, it's just like modern, like it's like a pre-met like mess steel age, and then it's like the only steel weapon. Like, yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I really like this book. I thought it was really good. It's interesting. I was reading comments, and would you consider this romantasy, or would you consider this fantasy with romance?
I keep going back and forth. I knew you were gonna ask that question. It's very heavy on the romance.
Yeah.
But there's an epic element to it because the fate of the world is also reliant on it.
Hmm.
But it's very romantic, like love saves the day. So
Yeah.
my answer to that is I don't know. I plead the fifth. What do you say?
I say the same. I go back and forth because the moment, like the climax of the book, or I guess like the final moment, isn't them being together. It's Una killing Vivian. So that to me makes it not a romance. Like I think in a romance, it's like the moment where they're like, we're together and we love each other. That happened at the end, but that was more of like the
Epilogue.
tying up the knot,
Yeah.
like putting a bow on the story. So yeah, I think it's interesting just because it's such a new genre, like a new way to talk about fantasy. Um, so I thought that was interesting. But I did really like how love was a theme in this book. And as we talked about, earlier, sacrificing for love and
Yeah.
loving someone for who they are, not for what they can do for you, but for who they are, which I think was
Yes.
it was portrayed so well in this book, and I really loved
Yeah.
that.
So all my unpopular opinion is that I've always found, I think I've said it to you before, but I've always found romance kind of boring. Like I'm just not a big romance person. And I love love, but I find it really overdone when love is done in the context of just romance. Like a person, like a boy and a girl or boy, girl, girl, whatever meet. And they're like,
Yeah.
oh, like I just find it so boring. I have never been able to sit through a single Nicholas Sparks movie. I just even like okay, like even Titanic. I love
Even A Walk to
Titanic.
Remember, that one is
Oh,
like heartbreaking.
I watched it and I don't remember what happened. Um, like yeah, I don't know what's wrong with me. Like and Titanic, I love Titanic for the story, but like Jack and Rose are like what I have to sit through to get to the Titanic. But I will say like what I love in the Titanic, like all my friends know this, they think I'm so weird, but like my favorite couple in the Titanic are the husband and wife who are sleeping together in the bed while the water comes under them.
That is so beautiful. I love that moment in that movie. I mean, it's obviously devastating, but it's
Yeah,
so beautiful. Yeah.
and it's so real. I think for me, like I find it like, and so I feel like this book had that. Like it wasn't
Yeah.
just like boy girl meet and they're the one. It's like boy girl meet and they're already one. And like there's like some so like there's such a depth to it. I think that's what it is for me. It's like I love depth. I need there to be depth. If they just met, you can't physically possibly have depth. Like depth requires like time. And they've had millennia. Like they've had endless lives together. And so like I feel like there's something really cosmic about it and I like when the cosmic elements gets introduced, I start to like my ears perk up a little bit more. And so I really I like that. And it wasn't just love between them, it was like love in general. Like the love that his father like familial love, like the love Owen's father had for him, the love that his biological mother had for him. And that like inspired him to love like the world basically and give himself up for the world, not just for Una, but like for the fate of the world itself. And I find that to be a very alluring, endearing type of storytelling rather than like, oh, this guy is hot. You know, like like it's just not the
Yeah.
same to me. Sorry, I know that's such an offensive thing to say, and I'm so sorry. But I just can't get over romance. If anyone disagrees with me, I know I'm the weird one. Like I know that I'm weird. So someone, if
No,
anyone
I
has a
think
re
it's true. But I think it's true though. I mean, I don't read a ton of romance. I do like romantic comedies though, which is like also I mean, it's romance.
yeah,
So, yeah. Only if they make me laugh though. Anyway, I won't go on a
yeah.
tangent about movies right now. But um but I did really like that in this book because I got nervous because as I said in the beginning, like it was the first time, passed through time, they were acting like he was acting like he loved her already, and I was just like, I don't like this.
Yeah, like
I
boy,
don't,
you
you
just met
can't
this
love
girl.
her.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, maybe it's just because it was a lot of time and it just moved very quickly, and I just don't understand. I don't know. But then like once you realize, no, it's because they've been together for
Since they were
lifetimes.
kids. Like since they were kids, like
Yeah.
the tree would transport them back and forth.
Yeah. Well, and even I mean, even without that, like they were even if it was just the age that they were in the main part of the book, like they lived that hundreds of times, it seems like, which is so of
Yeah.
course, and if your body remembers, like that's when your soul, like part of you would recognize the person. And I thought that was
Yeah.
such a beautiful way to show romantic love, but also I do think I like how you said that this was about not just that kind of love, but love for like familial love, also love for um just the way that people I'm trying to think of how to say this because it's not love for country, it's the opposite of that. It's like the love for the
For
the diversity of the
yeah.
world and the different regions and the different people and the
It's like for
different
your fellow
languages.
human. Like it's for
Yeah.
humanity as a whole.
Yeah. And the
Yeah.
dragons. And I mean even
And
like
nature.
yeah, so I really loved that. I thought that was a I loved the love. Um
Yeah.
because it
Like
didn't feel
I don't want people to think I don't love love. I love love. It's just a certain type
you
of
don't
love that
love
I get bored
lust.
by. Yeah, I think you know what? I find lust really boring. I do, and my friends also make fun of me for that, but I do. God help me. Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, no, I want it to be a rugged knight who has died
Yeah.
500 times.
Then you'll get my attention.
Yeah, not someone you met at the gym. Like I
Yeah.
really like that's so funny. The next theme we had was power, which we've kind of talked about a lot already, but I think that was such a I mean that keeps coming up in like a lot of the books that we've read.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? It's in the zeitgeist right now. Like, I think this is something that we as a culture might be like contending upon amongst ourselves with is like
Hmm.
power. What is power? Why do people have power? Like, what do we as the powerless, think about it? Or like, what should we do about it? Something I thought was really interesting, one of the lines was when he finally figured out who Vivian was and that she was like this puppeteer of the universe. And he was like, he said something along the lines of like, there was this maniacal logic behind it. Or like almost like she's a maniac, but she's an ev genius maniac. Like she's
Yeah.
crazy and he could see that she's insane. Like she is unhinged, but she's also a genius. And it's like the rest of the world are slaves to her insanity. And I feel like he was making the point that people who are obsessed with power where they can't get enough are unhinged. I feel like that's what he was trying that's what Alex was
Oh my
trying to
gosh.
say.
That's, I feel that's definitely true. I don't know if that's a
Like it's like a
radical
mental
opinion,
illness. Yeah.
but yeah, but I think that's such a good point, and it also feels very, it does feel applicable to our life right now. Like thinking of this person who's in power and pulling all of the strange, literally rewriting history, like not even rewriting it, reliving history to have it fill her current needs. And then we have people who are rewriting history in some cases in our actual lives. Like the parallels there are definitely there. And thinking about power and how the main characters they learn that they also have power. Like they start the book thinking that they're just, one of oh, and like just another man on the front lines. And then Una's just like supposed to be this knight who represents like she's being used, like you said, for the country. And then they realize like, no, we do have power, even if we're just individual people, and kind of that love for everyone and realizing that everyone matters. Because there was the question of should one person die for the good of everyone? And he concludes no, like you shouldn't kill your daughter in this case because you think it's for the good of everyone. And yeah, I thought that was just I really liked how she addressed power in those themes.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
I love that she showed the like the depravity and the depths of the depravity of power.
Yeah. Yeah, like it was truly, I mean, in this case, like Vivian was truly insane because she just kept going back and tweaking it to try to, it's like you have power.
Like
Why are
it's
you
never
doing this?
enough. Like it's never
Yeah.
enough. That's why I think it's a
Yeah.
mental illness, like a beast, like, like a black hole. It keeps eating. It can't stop. Um, yeah.
A
I think
vampire.
also yeah, like a vampire. Yeah, oh my goodness. Like yeah, see, it's like it's so weird how all the books we read have really similar themes.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know what we're talking about, we are talking about Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil. If you haven't read it, go read it and go listen to our episode on it.
Yeah, definitely read it if you liked this one. I feel it's darker than this, but it has a lot of similar themes. Yeah.
Similar themes, yeah. Something else
Yeah.
I thought was really interesting is the theme here was self-determination versus determinism. Because
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah.
point where you're like, do you even have will? If this
Yeah.
person is puppeteering your entire life, do you even have free will? And I think she makes the case that yes, you do.
Yeah. I think so too. That was the big takeaway for me when I was reading this book was that they had the choice and they show those choices at the end. They both make a choice to stop all of this. And yeah.
And I think it also really shows with Ansel, the knight. He was also very
Oh,
much a
yeah.
pawn like Una. He was very much a used pawn like Una, but in his last moment, he ch like chose something that Vivian was not pleased with. And so even though he really seen, you know, it was hinted many times that he knew what was happening and he was resigned. Like when
Yeah.
he has to like betray her and then she kills him and he just has like a chagrined look, like, oh, it was destined to happen. Like he's just very resigned to, like, he almost has a deterministic or fatalistic worldview of himself and of the world. Like he just kind of accepts Vivian as a god. But in his last moment, he decided to do something different, and so he does have free will in that moment. And so I thought, like, but there's like many points where they're driving themselves crazy. They're like, is this us or is this Vivian? Is this, have we done this before? Or does Vivian want this to happen? And like, even you as the reader, you're unsure. Like, it was such a letdown when I found out that this wasn't the first time they've had kids. Like, this isn't the first time that they've ran
Yeah.
away. Like, the man, this woman is so wicked.
I know. She was a really good villain because you didn't know what was gonna. It felt like she had so much power. Like the moment where she goes back and kills Una, they have their kids, and she has the gun, and it's just like, how could he? He can't do anything. You know, it seems like she has so much power. And you have Ansel. I in my head because you did the audiobook, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Yeah.
I pronounced it Ansel in my head, so I was like, who are you talking about? Um, but it's so interesting because yeah, he was this the Knight of Hearts, I think is what they called him. Like he was supposed to be the classic like beautiful knight everyone wants to be with who's really good and Una's counterpart. And we have these knights who should be really powerful, but they're both spending most of the book acting as if they don't have any way to stop it, which I thought was just so interesting because they're typically the knights are the ones who come in and have all of the power, you know?
Yeah. They're like the
So, yeah.
heroes or the villains, depending on
Yeah.
which side of the country you're living in. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
There's also the scene in the book where someone mentions God and all Owen sees is Vivian. So it's like even
Yeah.
Owen starts to see her as a god. Like it's really hard not to. Like this woman literally has her fingers into every aspect of history. So, but the fact that they still beat her is just cool.
Yeah. Do you want to move on to some of our
Let's do it.
favorites? So, my favorite scene was the moment at the end. So, after Una kills Vivian and she takes the heart and plants it in Owen, and then she just waits. And a lot of time passes in that particular moment. But I thought that was a really beautiful conclusion to the book where she creates the yew tree again. And she takes this the dragon heart to me is kind of like innocence. Thinking of them as like whales, but they can live forever and they're not actually, you know, dangerous. So to me, it was just this like pure love, like a literal heart that she's putting in him. And I thought that I just really liked that. I thought that was a really beautiful scene. And yeah, I just love that conclusion.
It's
So
very symbolic and very
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah, I loved it. And then my favorite character, I think, was Una.
Yeah, Una was great. I liked her. Felt bad for her, but she overcame so much, and that's just like she overcame so much. And again, very triumphant character.
I think she changed a lot too. So I feel like there's I mean Owen did too, but I don't know, maybe it is maybe I also fell for the propaganda a little bit and she's like the knight and like the description of her in the beginning. I loved being able to see how she was different than how she had been written in the history books and then just like learning who she was, you know. I really
Yes,
liked her. Yeah.
perfect example, I think, where it showed her character development was the man who, like she kept first she killed him, then she cut off his hand, and then eventually
Yeah.
she doesn't kill him at all.
Yeah.
Perfect example for of her character arc.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah. Yeah, and she
Yeah.
buys blankets from them or something.
And like she accepts the accountability that she killed his son, you know, but that she doesn't let it like eat her alive. Like she moves past what she's done, you know, and I just thought that was really cool too. Um,
Hmm.
for me, my favorite character was Owen's dad. I just loved him.
Yeah.
I love people who don't fall for it. Like like I again, I hope this isn't offensive, but Una and Owen did fall for it. Not their fault.
Yeah.
It's not their fault, but that's why it like people typically do fall for it. And so seeing someone who didn't really fall for it, I just think is really cool. I just think like those people are bad at like they're rebels, you know. I love rebels. Yeah, he's a rebel. He's literally a like he's part of the rebellion. He gets killed like you know like he I just like I like that kind like I love those kinds of people. I read their stories in history, you know. Like I love the one who did what no one else was doing, and who was hated for it. Like I just love that
Hmm.
person, that character, and that's Owen's dad. So, yeah, loved Owen's dad. I love, and speaking of Owen's dad, my favorite scene is when there's like two scenes, so I'll just say them real quick. First, there's a moment where Owen sees Una talking like his dad, and he's like shocked by it because this person who is the symbol of Dominion is actually closer to his father than to her, and it's like
Hmm.
shocking to him, and he almost can't bear it because he's always like been ashamed of his father, but this person that he like idolized is his father. Thought that was a really cool scene. And then also the
Yeah.
scene where Owen is talking to his dad when his dad is in custody, and his dad, and this is actually my favorite line too, is he says like, when there's nowhere left to run, love makes a fighter of you. And I just thought that was
Yeah.
really like very cool because that was Owen's story. Is first he tried to take Una and run. And Una was the one who wanted to fight for the like, fight for the cause and like stop Vivian. And he was like, no, 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 let's just escape. Like, let's just like run away. And obviously they can't run away. And so you only have like one decision left, which is to give up or to fight. And obviously they chose to fight. And so I just thought from Owen's perspective, I just love the dynamic between Owen and his dad and how that shaped him going from being ashamed of his dad to becoming like his dad. But, um,
Yeah.
good outcomes.
Yeah, I agree. I loved their relationship. I think his dad was such an interesting character because you start out, I mean, we're in Owen's perspective, so you start out, and Owen had a lot of hard feelings for him in the beginning. He was like, I feel like there's something here that I'm missing. And then, you evolve with him and just learn how his father had a lot of wisdom, I think.
Yeah. A lot of
And
pain and a lot of
yeah,
wisdom.
yeah. And yeah, he was good. I really liked him. So we have on here, normally we'll do predictions. I feel like this one concluded so cleanly. I don't think that there would be a sequel. I don't really have anything to predict because it kind of tied all of the knots on what would
I
happen.
hope there isn't a sequel because that means someone else has figured out the secret of the tree. So let's just
Yeah,
hope there's no,
exactly.
let's not ever repeat this again.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that would be like in this world. Do you think that someone would take advantage of the tree again? Because it seems to imply that the dragons weren't all killed because they kill Vivian, so all the dragons
Yeah.
are there. So would someone do what she did? Do you think that that could happen again?
Okay, here's what I'm going to tell myself. The descendants of Una and Owen create this order of the yew tree, whose secret order, whose job is to protect the secrets of the tree. And as soon as they die, they pass it down from generation to generation.
Ooh, I
That,
love that.
and so we
It's
never
very
get a
like
sequel.
it's very King Arthur,
Yeah,
like
thank you,
perfect
thank
for
you.
this night book. Yeah. Okay, I take that. I'll adopt that. That's my new canon for this book in my brain. That's
Yep.
continuing.
Yeah. Demi, do you have any final thoughts about this book?
I'm st I feel like I'm still processing it because I just finished it. I stayed up late reading it last night, so I'm still processing it. So I think I have a lot of thoughts. My main conclusion from this book is just thinking about how reality can seem one way, but you don't know what's happening kind of behind the scenes and how we got there and all of the different perspectives and different factors. And I really like how it showed that even history as it was written was not true and it changed so many times. And I think that that's true for our life as well. Like what's written might not have been the actual reality. Maybe there were a lot of different realities. Even for this podcast, you and I have a different reality of what's happening right now. So I think like holding all of the different perspectives is something that I probably will think about more since reading this book.
Yeah, so true. The stories we tell ourselves as individuals, the stories we tell ourselves as a culture, and the story we tell ourselves as a planet have a lot more impact than we might think it does. And so it's
Hmm.
important to be open to maybe other people's stories because it can rewrite your own and reshape your own.
Yeah, and I think you just made me think there was like a part in where it was talking about how the history seemed almost too perfect. Like the castle wouldn't be structurally sound or something like that. And so I think that's something also that I'm going to keep in mind is, well, if a story seems too perfect and it's sparking an emotion in me too clearly, who wrote that story. Was it Vivian, pulling
Yeah.
the chords and like making it come together? So kind of remembering
Yeah.
that, besides like fiction, obviously,
And
but
in our
yeah.
modern times, that would be, is it just an influencer using short form content to rage bait? So
Yeah.
it can,
Exactly.
there's exactly, totally.
Yeah. So I think that there are applications. I don't know if she intended all of those applications, but this feels there's so many. I feel like we could talk about this for like 2 more hours. Like there's so many layers to this book. It's so fun. So I guess, yeah, my main conclusion actually would be I'm just going to read whatever Alix Harrow writes because,
Forever and ever.
yeah, anytime I read her books, they always, the ending is always perfect in her books. Every single book I've read, I'm like, man, she knows how to perfectly conclude a book, which is a really good skill. Like I'm like, I'll just be along for the ride. I'll trust you even though
Yeah.
it feels repetitive in this time loop. Okay, yeah, 5 stars. Like the end was perfect. So,
Yeah, like the bow on a Christmas gift. So
yes,
just wraps it
exactly.
nicely. So good book to end the year on.
Yeah, yeah, this was the perfect end of the year book. This was so fun. So yeah, for everyone listening, I'll be releasing the list for 2026, and we are doing a combination of new books, old books, revisiting some old favorites and some that we just never read from like a decade ago, and then also some that are coming out in 2026. So we have a big variety. So we're very excited to continue the book club with everyone and read a lot of good books next year. So I think it's going to be fun.
I'm excited.
All right. Well, thank you for talking to me today. And thank you, everyone, for listening. And we'll see you next time.